let's go real quickly. So, because this kind of feeds into our next discussion, right? Which is the directions of the political parties, right? That's what we want to kind of touch on. So based off of what you said, I'm going with the argument that, or I'm not going with the argument because I don't disagree with you completely. I really don't. I guess it's just kind of one of those things. Is like me as a voter, I just can you bring a little fucking something? Can you bring a little bit of that Obama?
Energy.
My fellow Americans. I love you. All that good stuff. But but like I said, the United States isn't monolithic, right? What works in New York isn't going to work in Georgia. For example, Stacey Abrams as a whole isn't progressive. Not really. She's more like you, left of center, right?
Mm.
But in Georgia, she's progressive.
Yeah.
So it's what I think needs to happen. Say what you say. I honestly do believe that, the status quo is probably the reason why Joe Biden won. Enough people are like, okay, there's that whole, I don't know if you've seen it, where people are like, I just want to go back to brunch.
No,
like people,
that sounds funny.
Yeah, some people were protesting Trump. It was white. It was some white voters. They were just protesting Trump.
And about the lockdown.
Yeah, and I would like to go back. If it wasn't for Trump, I'd be at brunch right now, right? And that's kind of one of the running kind of, I guess, insults that some people say is like, people just want to go back to people. There's a lot of people that want the status quo, just so they go back to brunch. For example, Zino talked about it in our guest appearance on the radio show, where he talked about his essay that he created about the civil unrest, where he touched on how there's enough. He said there's enough black people. I have to say he said because he's black. I don't want to be speaking for black people, but he said that and really it's not just black, it's minorities. There's enough minorities who are comfortable with where they're at. I really recommend this season of Blackish because it's touching. It's like, honestly, it's like hitting it out of the ballpark of this season on a lot of the stuff that's currently going on. And one of the episodes they talk about is where Dre goes out with Junior and whatnot to protest, right, for the Black Lives Matter Black Lives Matter protests and all that stuff. And he talks about, he's like, I don't have the same energy that I had before. I don't have the Black Panther energy that I used to have before, because then he's showing his house. He's like, I'm comfortable with what I got. I don't want to sacrifice what I got, right? So there's a lot of people that just wanted to go back to the status quo, and I get that. But I think what's happening, and you can kind of see it a little bit with AOC, where she's basically letting people know, like, look, progressives can help you win, because she said she's like, she reached out to the Democratic Party, a lot of people in the Democratic Party, and said, I can help you win your election. We can help you win your election, right? The squad, progressives, all that good stuff, right? And she said of the people that I think she said 5 only came back. Those 5 won the re-election. The other ones lost the re-election, right? So I think there's a little bit of a power struggle right now going on, where there is a progressive movement where they're like, look, we cited the show on this one because you know what? Yeah, a lot of us felt burnt, right? No pun intended. We felt burnt out, but a lot of people felt burnt. but we sided with you on this because we understood the impact of a Trump second term.
So let me ask you this: knowing what you know about Georgia and the voters here, the electorate, whatever, do you think the squad would be more helpful or more detrimental to Ossoff and Warnock?
I think they would actually be more helpful because the thing is, though, one thing that they don't do is, they might come and stump for him, but they don't try to put themselves at the forefront. Basically, they're like, they keep that politician the star of their campaign. Because I don't know if you've noticed, when Trump comes down, he's the star.
It's him.
It's him. They don't. They're like, no, it's the policies. and they'll be like, John Ossoff will help us bring blah 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 to Georgia, blah blah blah. So I think, but it might not be necessary for them to come to certain parts of the states, because what happens is then David Perdue will send me those stupid ass mail-ins saying that he's trying to be a socialist, communist, Marxist, Democrat or whatnot. Throw out all these terms that sound scary to people, and so to answer your question, I would say that it just depends on how they throw out their message. If they were to come down here, I don't think all the squad members could probably come down here, honestly. We're still in Georgia. There's still a lot of people here who would. Ian Omar would probably be. People would see and then it would just be like, honestly, like that. Look, we know where we are, right? We know who our
that's the thing about all of the squad, though. It's not just Ilan Omar with the head wrapping. It's all of them. You've got a Hispanic, you've got a black woman, you've got where's Rashida Tlaib from? I don't know. But anyway, you've got ethnic people, is what I'm saying. I am a little more pessimistic about Georgia than you, as far as the electorate. I think the squad would actually be a detriment to those two candidates in the South. You said earlier that the country is not monolithic, and you're correct.
Do you think Ayanna Pressley would be detrimental to them, though?
No, actually, no, she wouldn't be. Presley would not be detrimental. I think the whole bald thing, like after exposing her alopecia and then just going with the bald head, I actually think that's empowering to a lot of Black women. Because one of the biggest things about this runoff election is going to be turnout, right? Getting people to come back out again on January 5th. And we know how important the Black vote is in Georgia. So Ayanna Pressley might be good, but I just think AOC is the face of the squad, right? So she wouldn't be good in this, or at least for the messaging point of view, right?
Yeah, but you also got to think about
the
Hispanic population here too, though.
True. Yeah, true. That's true. One thing I was gonna say is that it might help drive out the youth vote, which is very important. Getting the youth to remember that, hey, there's an election. But there are other ways you can do it without having to stump. You can use your Twitter feed. Say, hey.
Actually, you know what's funny? She just did.
Okay.
She just did, and she raised a bunch of money for John Ossoff.
That's good. Yeah.
So
I'm hopeful that we either get 0 seats or 2 seats, right? Because they're both on the same ballot.
So let me ask you a question. We're not going to go into the whole what do we think Georgia's going to happen, because we're going to definitely dedicate some time to that, since that's still going to be going on. We'll definitely try to talk about it before the early voting for the runoff. Do you think there? I think there is, but I want to know. Do you think there? I wouldn't say a power struggle, but it's kind of one of those things where. Do you feel the Democratic Party is currently in a situation where they're trying to figure out the direction of the party?
Yeah, I think they've been in that situation for at least a couple of years.
And do you think it just came a little bit more to the forefront now?
AOC first got in 2018, right? And she's become like a media darling ever since. I mean, she's always having these great smackdowns on social media and all that stuff. She's pretty good at her job, and I really mean it when I say I think she's going to be a presidential candidate at some point, probably 2028, maybe later, right? So when she's 39.
Yeah, because I don't think it'll be 2024, because I think she's actually going to try to primary Schumer for the
for Senate. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. So well, maybe sooner, right? Isn't Gillibrand up in 2 years?
I think so.
Yeah. Anyway, she might not want to primary a fellow woman. So anyway, I think that power struggle has been there since she's been getting more of the spotlight than the traditional Democrats. I think a lot of them have been feeling like, they're being, positioned out by AOC
I
and the
don't think they're
select.
being positioned out. They're being aged out.
Well, yeah,
It's
okay, yeah,
just
there you go. Yeah, so they've
no,
been
you're being aged out. Like, I'm sorry, Nancy Pelosi is how old?
yeah.
70%, and you're 70%,
Eh,
70
I
years
think
old
she's
or something
in
like
her
that.
80s. Yeah,
This year, and
yeah.
and you're trying to be the head of the Democratic Party, which is, yeah, I get Bernie Sanders, had a youthful movement, but he even said it, like, they had a little Twitter page where they talked about how he explained, this is why I get along with the younger voters. This is why, he
Yeah.
explains why he gets along with them, because he's like, I understand their power, their struggles, because he comes from the same areas where a lot of people came from, right? Like, working class and, struggling a lot of times and all that stuff. So him, I think he's a little different. And but like,
it's important to know what exactly it is Nancy Pelosi does as Speaker, right? Like she's a fundraising juggernaut for Democratic Congress people that have that have their races going on, and a good example of like the stuff that whips do is House of Cards. When you have people going around whipping votes and saying, hey, I give you this, I'll give you this little pork spending for this district of yours, and you just have to come over to our side and agree with this and that. Nancy Pelosi, by all accounts of people in Washington, she's really good at that. That being said, I think the Democratic Party would be better off if they were able to merge the social media acumen or the ability to speak to the youth that this new wave of progressives have. If they were able to merge that with um the political understanding
the
that
old fashioned political party.
yeah,
Right?
exactly.
I
But
get that.
but
Yeah, I'm with you.
both sides are seeing it, and probably not both sides. Really, I do think it's the traditional Democrats that are seeing it more like you're stepping on our turf and all that stuff.
Yeah, youngin, get off my lawn.
Yeah.
So honestly, I'm gonna tell you that this is how I'm feeling. I feel like AOC is basically saying, look, I'm not gonna outright challenge the machine, because she knows if I outright challenge the machine, I'll be getting ahead of myself, and it might screw up
But
the movement that I have.
she did do that. She did that in her first year. I can't
No,
remember.
that,
Yeah, she
yeah, no,
tweeted some. Sorry, she tweeted something, and I remember that got under a lot of people's skins.
where she talked about how they automatically try to make you basically kind of sacrifice like certain
your ideals or something
was
like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was something, and I know my brother was like, oh, she's getting ahead of herself. Like there's a lot of like.
But if you notice, that was one of the only few times that she did that. After that, she really didn't go back, because I think she learned. And I guarantee you, somebody like Bernie told her, was like, look, I get it. It's a dirty game that we're playing, but you got to learn how to play it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I think she's doing, because she's also saying, I think she looked back and said, what do I really have power over? And I think the main thing that she did, that she thought about, was like, I have power over the progressive bloc. Not power, but I'm the leader of the
I've got
progressive bloc.
sway.
That's what she said. We're going to start purging the progressive caucus for real progressives.
Mm-hmm.
If we're not just going to let people join and say I'm a progressive, and then it turns out they're not a progressive. No, we're going to start purging the progressive bloc for real progressives. That's one of the things she said, and I think that one got under some people's skin, but then that also might have made some of them nervous and be like, all right, now it's kind of one of those things where they have to, I guess, I'm pretty sure a lot of Democrats are waiting to see who comes out on top, whether it's the new guard or the old guard. I think there's enough new guard now that the progressive bloc will be the directing factor for, if not now, I think it'll be based on upcoming years, right? Like in 2 years when we have another what is it, Senate? Yeah, well, all of them, right?
All the House is running, and there's like 33 Senate seats.
Yeah. So when that happens, right, that's when I think they'll really be able to show, like, look, this is where we are. This is what we can do. Either stay with us or get out. Honestly, it's going to be one of those things where I think a lot of them are just going to be like, I'm just retiring because I can't really work with this.
Yeah, a lot of older Democrats are going to be phased out. One thing to note about Nancy Pelosi, she has like Vito Corleone levels of power in San Francisco.
She does.
Yeah,
You're not joking either. She really does.
Look, like, so in San Francisco, the way they do in her district, it's like a jungle type of election thing where the primary is a lot of Democrats, a lot of Republicans, and then the top two go to the general. And in the general is Nancy Pelosi and I can't remember the guy's name, but another Democrat. And she spanked the dude. She beat him by like 60 something points, right? And this guy's a progressive, like he's.
But look, I know people talk about California being liberal and thinking they automatically think it's progressive. California is not as progressive as people think it is. It's really not. There's a lot of rich liberal people, and I'll be honest, rich white liberals who kind of like what we were saying. They're comfortable where they are. Like they like to vote for things to help minorities, but they don't necessarily want minorities to be around. Honestly, that's
be as charitable as long as it doesn't affect you.
As long as I don't have to see it. You know, that's the reason why they like San Francisco. I think it was San Francisco, which is big liberal country, big liberal state. And they voted that one. I forget what it was, but they voted like a homeless center from being able to be built because it was an eyesore. I'm not 100% certain if they're the ones that put stuff on their benches where homeless people can't lay down on
the spikes.
Right? The spikes or puts bars in between the benches so that there's not enough space for people to lay down. So don't, when you think liberal California, it is liberal and they might have progressive policies, but they're not as progressive as people think. They're really not, because at the end of the day, the ruling class will still be the ruling class. And take that as you want, but Zeno knows what I mean.
Let's put a bow on it though. So you think the Democratic Party will become a lot more progressive in the next 2 years?
I think it'll slowly become more progressive, but it depends on how what the progressive part actually does. If it tries to make, like, basically, like you said, Nancy Pelosi has Vito Corleone kind of a power, right? If you try to go against the Godfather will get rid of you, right? So it's kind of like they got to be smart about it. It'll be a slow burn. But I think AOC is basically putting a lot of people, or they're putting a lot of people on notice, saying, look, I can help you win. So choose, like, you can either ask me to help you or not, right? And then what I think is going to happen, primaries are going to start becoming very important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of progressives are going to try to primary old school Democrats.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what's going to happen. But Nancy Pelosi ain't going to be primaried anytime soon, because but I mean, she might be retired. What is she? Which one is she? Is she in the 2 year or the 6 year?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
She probably only has like 4 more. I mean, she's got to only have like 4 more elections in her. You know?
4 more elections. I think you're gonna say 4 more years.
Oh shit, that's 8. That's 8 years.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 more.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. That's we're real quickly.
Yes. So I think, and I said it before the election, and I still think it's the case. I think the Democratic Party is moving more towards the progressive side. I think this election might have slowed that down a little, just because people are scared that, all that messaging around socialism worked and all that stuff. But what you'll see is that in the Biden administration, you're going to have progressives in cabinet positions. I mean,
Bernie wants labor.
Yeah, so it's not going to be all the cabinet positions, but yeah, something like Bernie in labor secretary, or maybe what's her name? Elizabeth Warren as Treasury Secretary. That one is a little less certain because the governor of Massachusetts is Republican, and there's worry that he would appoint a Republican senator to finish her term, which would be like really crappy if they did that.
Yeah.
But I think the progressives are going to get more of a voice in this administration than in any other administration before, which is a good thing for the party.
Yeah, and I'll say this: I think one of the things that people will start paying, like, and what I mean by people, I mean the party itself will start paying to is like kind of like I mentioned, ballots, different types of ballot measures, and then be like, all right, these progressive type ideas, policies are popular, so we got to start moving towards that. But anyways,